The doors of your car will close automatically. Please keep your head and arms inside and remain seated at all times. And please, no smoking. Thank you.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
All right, let's get right into
Hey
the
there,
podcast.
Mountaineers. Welcome to episode 57 of Matterhorn Mondays. I'm your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Alex, the historian.
I guess we can just use that intro. That will work.
No.
No? Okay, I'll keep it in anyways, just for the laughs. Okay. Anyways. Hey there, Mountaineers. Welcome to episode 57 of Matterhorn Mondays. I'm your host, Matterhorn Matt.
I'm Alex, the historian.
And today we are joined by Jeremy once again. I'm sure you all know who he is at this point. Welcome to not just Jeremy and Alex, but to everybody who is watching the stream. Everybody, all you amazing people who are watching the show. Yeah, we're glad to have all of you here. We got Bryce, we got New Age Nostalgia, we got Mateo. We got a lot of great people here today. So let's see if we can churn out a good show for you guys. I think we will. We got a lot of good topics to talk about. I even wrote down a lot of notes for this episode, so I hope you guys are ready. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, I guess we can just get right into it, just so we don't waste any time. So, let's see. That's not. This week in Disney news, someone had sent News from the Peak. That is the name suggestion someone sent for this segment. So I guess that's what we're going to be calling it. Welcome to this week's News from the Peak. I probably should have renamed it in the graphic here, but yeah, this is News from the Peak. Really great name. I forget who came up with it, but thank you to whoever did. The first bit of news we have, it was Bryce, he says. Thank you, Bryce. The first bit of news we have, Disney is developing a live-action CG hybrid of the animated classic Lilo and Stitch. For those of you guys who are big Lilo and Stitch fans and big fans of Disney's live-action reboots, then you guys will love this movie, hopefully. But if you're not a big fan of the live-action reboots, then you're probably going to hate this movie. Yeah.
Why should we even be surprised anymore? Like, you know what, people? Every time they come out with an animated movie, just expect them to come out with a live-action version, like, 2 years later.
That is very good advice, Alex. Very good advice. I didn't expect it to be Lilo and Stitch. I expected it for, like, all the sort of, like, Renaissance movies, but not Lilo and Stitch, because, I don't know, I'm a big fan of Lilo and Stitch. I really didn't want them to touch this movie, but yeah, they are developing a live-action CG hybrid of Lilo and Stitch. I don't even want to think of just, like, a CG Stitch running around with, like, a live-action. That just doesn't sound right to me. I'm sure some of you guys will feel the same, but, yeah, so that's that. Live-action Lilo and Stitch. For those of you guys who are excited about that, then kudos to you. But our second bit of Disney news, a new live-action Star Wars show, The Mandalorian, has begun filming. I believe Jon Favreau is the one that is... Jon Favreau is the one directing. And we do have our first piece of... I guess our first... Not like concept art, our first set image of The Mandalorian. So this is that. It's not really much to go off of. I don't really know if this is going to be good or not. We'll see. I haven't really been a fan of Disney's Star Wars stuff, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. Links to all the articles I'm pulling these from are in the description below, as always. And our last bit of Disney news. Sadly, Stitch's Great Escape will not reopen in the Magic Kingdom. The attraction has apparently already been dismantled. Now, for those of you that are sort of out of the loop, Stitch's Great Escape did close earlier this year for, I think it switched to seasonal operations, I believe, which we all know what that means. That means it's eventually going to close because Stitch's Great Escape is not the greatest attraction in the Magic Kingdom by any means, which is strange because I was just talking about my love of Lilo and Stitch. But yeah, Stitch's Great Escape is sadly with like 5 million quotation marks around it, Stitch's Great Escape is sadly not reopening in the Magic Kingdom. No real idea of what they're going to replace it with, but there have always been rumors of like a Wreck-It Ralph sort of attraction, simulator, VR thing. I don't really know, but yeah, there have been rumors of a Wreck-It Ralph attraction that's going to replace it, but we'll see. We'll see. For those of the fans of Stitch's Great Escape, we will mourn in peace later today after the stream, because
and I will be laughing in my trailer.
Laughing in his trailer, yes. Anyways, all right, let's get right. Ralph just wrecked it, says Bryce. That was good. Ralph just wrecked Stitch's Great Escape. Okay, let's just get right into this. We have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. Our first bit, or our first topic, I guess, comes from a Fresh Baked video. The link is in the description below. In the video, Dave, I believe is his name, talks about the future of Tomorrowland. I'm pretty sure his name is Dave. I'm 99% sure his name is Dave. But in the video, he talks about the future of Tomorrowland, when it will receive its long rumored refresh. Mateo says, "LOL, Fresh Baked providing news." I mean, yeah. I thought his first name was Fresh. So did I for a while. But okay, so let's get right into this, because this kind of ties into our second main topic of that we're going to be talking about later on today. But this is all from Fresh Bake's video. You guys can watch the full video down in the description below if you feel like it. But we're just going to sort of recap what he talks about and give our thoughts on everything that he said in the video. Now, Dave says, according to his sources, I don't know what people say, what they mean when they say sources. Like, do they have like people inside the company that are like working for Fresh Baked, but also working for Disney? I don't know. I never know what they mean when they say sources. But anyways, according to his sources, the original timeline for construction in the Disneyland Resort was Galaxy's Edge, and then once that's finished, Marvel Land, and then after that, the Fantasyland expansion, and then the Tomorrowland overhaul, which is, of course, the long-rumored overhaul. In 2025, he says, that was his sort of prediction of when everything, construction-wise, was going to be taking place and finishing in the Disneyland Resort. But according to his sources, new rumors do suggest that the Tomorrowland refresh has been bumped up sooner than expected, sooner than 2025, maybe even sooner than the Fantasyland expansion, which is rumored to come after the Marvel Land expansion. And according to his sources, again, nothing is safe in Tomorrowland except for Space Mountain and the monorail to an extent. Now, take everything here with a grain of salt. Like, of course, when people say like this came from my sources, that's not anything concrete. It's not concrete. But you can also take this with full. This is 100% happening if you want to as well. But yeah, according to him, nothing is safe in Tomorrowland except for Space Mountain and the monorail to some extent, especially Autopia and the Finding Nemo submarine voyage. Now, this is sort of, I don't know. I've sort of been expecting that Disney was going to sort of demolish everything except, Space Mountain and the monorail. Maybe even if they wanted to, they could keep the Carousel Theater, but I guess it's sort of on its last legs with the Star Wars stuff. But yeah, so nothing is safe except for Space Mountain and the monorail. And also, in the same vein, new rumors do suggest. This piece of Disney news is from a DSMI newscast. New rumors suggest that the Jedi Training Academy will be closing forever on November 4th. According to a tweet, which I have here from DSMI newscast. Let's see. Last week, Jedi Training Trials of the Temple in Anaheim celebrated its 12-year run in the park. In what has to be terrible timing, yesterday the cast members received 30 days notice. The show will be closing its doors November 4th, with, as of yet, no transition planned for employees or mention of show integration into Galaxy's Edge. It is likely the dozens of cast members that have been with the production will be flat out. So, this sort of popped out after Fresh Bake put out their video, but if you sort of look at it all in the same context, it could mean that some of these rumors are true, but like Disney Doof just said, it could just be budget cuts as well, because I don't really know anyone who is like a diehard fan of the Jedi Training Academy. I'm sure like the little kids are big fans of it, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, so that's that sort of first half of stuff. I wanted to get both of your guys' thoughts on the rumor that everything in Tomorrowland, except for Space Mountain and the monorail, will be probably demolished or changed in some substantial way where it will not resemble what it used to be for the new Tomorrowland makeover. So let's start with Alex today. Alex, what are your thoughts on this huge bit of news?
I don't know about his sources because he always speculates on stuff, and quite frankly, he comes up with like the weirdest like conclusions to things. I mean, just the other day he put out a video about how they're rerouting the monorail simply because he saw some new footings and stuff like that in the planter area of the Matterhorn bobsleds queue. I mean, and it was just like really weird because it's like that would mean the monorail pylons would be 10 feet away from each other, which is just ridiculous. So he tends to go overboard, you know, with some of the things he hears. And sometimes I can't help but wonder if he does it because, I don't know, because it stirs things up, you know? It makes people start to ask him stuff and question things. So sometimes I feel like he just does it for the attention. But if Fresh Baked is listening right now, this is just all my opinion. Matt had no idea I would diss you in such a way. So I take full responsibility for the things I say. But anyway, I do think, though, there is some credibility to what he said about if Tomorrowland were to be worked on soon, most likely the only things to survive would be Space Mountain and the monorail. I do believe that. And the reason why I believe it is because when Galaxy's Edge opens, Star Tours will no longer be needed. Plus, there's rumor that the ride vehicles for Star Tours will be repurposed into Marvel Land, which I believe, because they're not just going to throw away those expensive things, even though they're like almost antiques now. And then, of course, Buzz Lightyear. It's a cute ride. I'll admit that. It's a cute ride. But I feel like it just doesn't really belong in Tomorrowland. It's kind of a Toy Story thing. It should go into, like, I don't know, a different Disney park or a different Disney place. It doesn't really fit in Tomorrowland. So there's that. Also, the fact that Pizza Port is a terrible restaurant. It's disgusting. It's overpriced, and quite frankly, it's becoming less and less popular. I think that people going to Disney parks now are looking for foods that are more creative than just burgers and pizza. So we might be seeing, you know, in the future sometime, some more creative foods coming out of Tomorrowland, which I really hope, because Tomorrowland is the land of junk food. So anyway, so there's the idea of Pizza Port going. Star Trader needs to be expanded because it's simply not big enough. So there's that problem. The Carousel Theater is underutilized, and once Galaxy's Edge opens, it will be rendered unnecessary. And of course, there's the problems with the submarine voyage. It's expensive maintenance. It's low ride capacity. It's huge footprint in the park. All of that. So, and then of course Autopia lastly. Autopia, I love it because it's an original ride. It's still fun to drive it myself. I love it. But you know what? It should go. Mm-hmm. It should go because it just don't belong no more. and it's terribly out of date, and I used to think there could be things that they could do to revitalize it and make it more Tomorrowland-ish, but quite frankly, I just don't think so anymore. I've just kind of given up on Autopia. I don't think anymore that no matter what they could put holograms in the roadways for all I care. It will not be good enough anymore. So sometimes it's just time. This has happened in the past where classic attractions, it's their day has come. And that happens, but that's okay. It's okay as long as it's replaced with something better. So anyway, so I do agree with Dave on that if Tomorrowland is going to be on the wrecking ball soon, or in the path of the wrecking ball soon, I should say, then yeah, I do agree that the only things that are really safe are the monorail and the Matterhorn. And quite frankly, I hope that they do. I hope that they knock the whole place down. I love the two twin buildings at the entrance of Tomorrowland. They've been there since '55. They're architectural landmarks now. But you know what? Let's just build new ones. Build new buildings that can hold more people, hold bigger ride systems, and are not limited to the space of the current buildings and stuff like that. So, and lastly, what I wanted to say on my little rant here was, if Disney is listening, please do something about the Tomorrowland train station. We should still have one. I think it's necessary that people be able to disembark at Tomorrowland, but make like a grand station, a really cool, like, futuristic time traveling station where the train comes in and somehow it makes sense. Somehow, just find a way, make it make sense, and let it be like this like really cool futuristic space travel station, or not space travel, time travel station. That's what I meant to say. Time travel. And you know what, Mateo and I agree. The railroad is in dire need of help. If anybody has been to Disneyland lately, it's been in terrible shape. They've often been running only 2 trains sometimes, and even then at nighttime they run 1 train, so it's a 25-minute wait. They're in terrible condition. So Mateo and I say that they should get the company Union Pacific to sponsor the Disneyland Railroad. So that will be the conclusion of my rant.
Thank you, Alex. And
My
Jeremy, what about you?
Well, first, just responding to the thoughts about Autopia, and that'll segue into my overall thoughts. Not to give you my strategy. I agree and I disagree. My disagreement is very minor. I think there is something that can be done to make Autopia relevant to what Tomorrowland is in terms of today. But I mostly agree. I think in an ideal world, if the company was on the same page as all of us, Tomorrowland should always, nothing should ever be safe in that land. It should always be morphing and reshaping and tearing things down to make new and exciting and original stuff. That's not going to happen. It's going to be what our biggest fear is, which is IP land, basically. At least that's, it's of course it's impossible to predict anything. It's impossible to forecast anything. But I mean, you can look at the way they're transforming the parks in general. But yeah, I think it's exciting because maybe there's a chance that they'll do something really, really rewarding with the land by taking away everything, and remodeling it and reshaping it. So we'll see. It's impossible to predict, but that's what the land is all about. It's about, nothing should be safe. So that's really all my thoughts about it.
Well, I agree. I mean, I just want them to demolish everything and build something better, non-IP based. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
People have been saying for I don't know how long, just make the Autopia cars electric. Have Tesla sponsor them. I don't really know. I guess it's hard to get Tesla to sponsor Autopia and to build like mini electric cars. That must be like one of the hardest things in the world to do, because for some reason Disney hasn't done it yet. But I guess I'll let that pass just because I don't really care about Autopia as much as like the kids do. But now let's get back to the rest of this quote. I guess I could call it like a rumor train. Let's get back to the rest of this. Speculation train will be even better. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Because like I said, none of this, all of this could be fake, but it also could be true. We don't know. We'll see. In 10 years, when everything is finally sorted out, we can come back to this video and see if the predictions came true. But news in like 1,000 quotation marks, yes. Now, as many of you may already know, the Space Mountain queue was extended a few months ago into, I believe it was into the space above the old Starcade area. And according to Dave again, he has heard rumors of the rest of the queue being restructured to sort of make way for the buildings around it to be either demolished or changed in some way, like the pizza port, also the launch bay, because the beginning of the Space Mountain queue sort of goes up above the pizza port, sort of like their outdoor seating or whatever. So according to him, that's another rumor he's heard. And we also did say a few months back that money was set aside for the removal of the People Mover tracks in Tomorrowland. I believe I think we talked about that a couple months ago when it was sort of breaking news. But Dave is also reporting that the interior tracks of the People Mover, like in a Space Mountain, Buzz, and Star Tours, are most likely already being either worked on or being removed entirely. According to him, we won't really know because we don't have access to the backstage kinds of things. But
I don't think that's true, because I mean, look at the fact that they're not doing any harm where they are. I mean on the interiors of the buildings. That's what I mean. Like the one in the People Mover tracks and Star Tours. They're never gonna use that 6 foot wide space that just burrows through the building. Like they're never gonna use it. And then the rest of the People Mover tracks going through the other buildings, like they're never gonna use any of that space. It's just a random little tunnel that goes through all the buildings, and no one sees them now, and they're never gonna see them again. So I don't think that there's any work going on the interior tracks. I could see them setting aside some money to bulldoze the exterior tracks that are all outside, because people see that, people notice it. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Alex makes a good point. Yeah, I don't really know. I feel like you'd hear, unless they like did all this, if they're doing all of this at like nighttime, I'm sure you'd be able to hear like construction workers with their like I don't know, I don't even know how you would go about like doing that with like their jackhammers or whatever, removing all of that. I don't know. That's why this is all just rumor, what is speculation, I guess. But yeah, so also according to Dave, our Dave speculation man, part of Autopia could be used for this was I believe this was reported back a while ago. He was saying part of Autopia could be used for a Fantasyland expansion, for a sort of Be Our Guest style restaurant, and or an Arendelle area from Frozen, like we're seeing in Disneyland Paris, or in the second park in Disneyland Paris. I don't remember what it's called, but and he's also saying that the monorail path could be shortened to make room for those expansions. Now, Alex and I sort of brought up the idea that Disney was going to shorten the monorail back when they released. I don't think it was so much as concept art. I don't even remember honestly what the image we were looking at was. I think it was just like a map of the monorail after the new hotel was supposed to be built. And Alex pointed out that the route looked shorter up above in the Autopia area. So that's sort of where we got that from, I believe. But so yeah, according to Dave, all of this is supposedly going to be happening or already happening, and he says that Tomorrowland could be closed for 2 to 3 years while it's being refurbed to make way for the new Tomorrowland that they're going to be building. So that's it for that. But let's see. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on the monorail being shortened to make room for either the Tomorrowland or for the Fantasyland expansions?
Who are you asking?
Let's go with Jeremy this time, since I asked Alex first last time.
It's impossible to have an opinion on something like totally speculative. I have no opinion on that at all.
Okay. All right. Short, right to the point.
I like this guy.
There's nothing to. There's nothing to say. It would depend on what the expansion would be. It would depend on how short to what extent does it affect the monorail experience, and we don't have any of those answers, and it's not even something that may or may not happen. And so there's I feel nothing toward that question, Matt. Absolutely nothing.
Well, you guys are gonna feel something when we get into the next topics.
Yes,
topic.
that's true.
But
that's true.
But Alex, since you brought up the idea of Disney shortening the monorail a few months ago, what are your? I guess there really is nothing else to say. Jeremy sort of summed it up, but Alex, if you have anything you'd like to say about the monorail being shortened, now would be
I have
the time.
a lot to say.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Alex, go ahead.
That might spark me having something more to say too. So that's good.
I love speculation. I love speculation. I love to armchair Imagineer, as they call it. And okay, so in this concept art that I once saw back when they were showing the new resort hotel and the monorail track and all that, it was really weird because they showed a monorail station being on the path that goes over the motorboat cruise dock. So this is right in front of, or not front, but perpendicular to the Matterhorn bobsled's queue. So anyway, if you can imagine that stretch of monorail track that goes over the motorboat cruise area and then heads towards the Matterhorn, that area is where they showed a monorail station. And it made sense because in the concept art, they keep showing the monorail as having 7 cars instead of 5 cars, which makes it too long to stop at the current Tomorrowland station. And so, if they do decide to alter the monorail tracks and stuff like that, one thing you have to keep in mind is they need access to the monorail roundhouse, which is all the way north, just to the right of It's a Small World. And so, whatever they do, I mean, Dave thought like last week that they were gonna reroute the monorail so it goes like all the way around the Matterhorn, like 360 degrees around the Matterhorn. And that's not possible because that doesn't connect to the monorail roundhouse where they need to keep the monorail trains at the end of the night. So I think that there is still a way to remove all the loop-de-loops above the Tomorrowland Autopia without actually getting rid of too much monorail track. And basically, that is, if the monorail enters Disneyland, instead of loop-de-looping around Tomorrowland, it could head straight towards. It could follow the perimeter of Tomorrowland around where the Disneyland Railroad is, have its switch track to the roundhouse, and then instead of loop-de-looping, it just continues down its current path over the motorboat cruise and then past the Matterhorn. So basically, it's just one big circle instead of several tiny circles throughout Tomorrowland. So that could be possible. And if you do that, then you don't need and if you do that and you get rid of all the loop-de-looping of the monorail track in that area, then you have a nice big acreage where you can just demolish the Autopia and Submarine Voyage, and then they could put a Fantasyland expansion that way. Of course, the monorail would still be splitting right through Fantasyland, so it wouldn't really make sense that way. But nevertheless, I do foresee a Fantasyland expansion in that territory in the future. I don't know about the near future, but I do see it in the future because that's a lot of land that that is basically just being utilized for Autopia mostly, and that's a lot of land. That's oh, I see you pulled up the maps. Yeah, see, yeah. So as you can see, the monorail track, there is a section that just skirts the perimeter of Tomorrowland right along the edge of Harbor Boulevard and up to the freeway exit. And they could keep that, but just demolish all the rest of the looping that goes through Tomorrowland. And you have that nice big open area for adding an expansion to Fantasyland or Tomorrowland. So that's my thoughts on that. I think is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I think, though, now that you pull up the map and seeing it, and of course, I can see it in my head, but seeing it on the map, if they had to do an expansion, I'd prefer that space to be used for a Tomorrowland expansion, just looking about how it works in relation to the main part of Fantasyland, because one of my criticisms of the new Fantasyland it's not really new anymore, in Disney World is that it feels like a separate land from Fantasyland, and I feel like if Fantasyland were to expand all the way over into that area, to that other side of the park, it would feel separate and not a part of. And we would also lose a bit of that magical transition space between fantasy and the speculation of tomorrow, which I think is a really subtle but beautiful statement. It's one of my favorite parts of the park. We'd also lose, I think, one of the last really, truly kind of quaint park-like parts of the park in that section. Because there's something I really love about you, even just riding the monorail, winding around that area. But you know, if they need to expand Tomorrowland, I think that would be the place to do it. But Fantasyland, I'm not so sure if that would be the best best way to do it. But they probably would anyway. I mean, they don't think about stuff like that, but anymore. But I see your point. I see your point. You're just stating the kind of the facts of the speculation, and that all makes sense. Yeah.
Jeremy, what if they did what Walt Disney World did and put a castle wall around?
That's precisely my point. I don't think that works. I think Fantasyland is Fantasyland. You can't have like Fantasyland and New Fantasyland. It just like they different kind of like North Carolina and South Carolina. I mean, that's part of my criticism of the new Fantasyland and Magic Kingdom is there's no sort of cohesive nature to that land anymore.
Yeah, it really does feel like two different ones.
Yeah.
And I also don't know how well Fantasyland works as kind of this big, sprawling country. I do like the stuff in New Fantasyland. I think it's one of the last kind of great additions to the theme parks. I just don't know if it works fully in conjunction with the way the park works. But Fantasyland is really, it's supposed to be small. It's supposed to be quaint. It's supposed to be, I don't know. I mean, but you know, they might change that. And they might make it work. They might make it cohesive. But that's just my thoughts and looking at the map. But I don't want to interrupt you. I do probably have more of a point than just what if they put castle walls?
I'm loving this because for once it makes you look like a pessimist and me look like an optimist. So,
That's
for
funny.
once I'm no longer the pessimist.
I hope my tone is more I don't know. I don't mean to be a pessimist with this. But you're right, I probably do sound more like a pessimist talking about this.
Let's see.
I hope my tone's more melancholic than
Oh goodness. Well, if you guys like pessimism, then you guys are gonna like our next topic. Because
That's a great
next
segue.
topic might be more melancholic than pessimist.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very sad.
So, moving into our main topic. I know we talked about that for a long time, but be prepared, guys, because this is probably going to be like the meat and bones of the podcast, or just like the meat of the podcast. We were sent this link in the Discord by one of our new members. I can't quite recall what his name was. I'm very sorry, but he does say that this person does normally provide what's the word I'm looking for? He does provide rumors that often turn out to be true. I can't think of the right words to use, but I'm sure you guys can get what I'm trying to say. Reliable. This person's a very reliable person when it comes to this kind of rumors and speculation and stuff. I couldn't think of the word. But anyways, the link to this is down in the description below if you guys would like to sort of read the whole thing. It's not too long, but it does detail or get into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sort of topics, I guess you could say, on the current state of the parks, the future of the parks, the future of certain lands in the parks, and even the future of Disneyland and Anaheim, and the future of like Bob Chapek, all that kind of stuff. Definitely check out this link in the description, you guys. Read up once the show is over, or you can read along as we're talking about it. But this comes from the user TP2000. I don't know about his username, but apparently he has this person who works in Disney, and he calls her the neighbor lady. But sort of they go on about how, okay, I guess we can just get right into it. Now, the first bit is about Disneyland Marvel Land. I'm going to try not to read directly verbatim from this article, but it's probably just going to come down to me just reading this whole thing. So the first thing they talk about, or the first thing that the neighbor lady tells this user, is about Marvel Land. Now, apparently, Marvel Land is set to open with a C-ticket attraction in the Bugs Land Theater in 2020, but they don't really know which ride it will be. I'm guessing she's talking about the Ant-Man simulator, or the Iron Man simulator, or the Ant-Man sort of dark ride shooting thing that we were talking about a couple weeks ago, that was set to open in Marvel Land. But also apparently the Big Avengers e-ticket roller coaster attraction was canceled because of it being very expensive and ridiculously low on rider capacity. I guess I can just read. Okay. She said that there's a lady in VP named Chris. A lady named Chris, who hates that all WDI designs nowadays are big budget rides, and that they have horrible ride capacity. I guess this sort of rings true because we've heard things about the new Battle Escape attraction in Star Wars Land not being very rider capacity friendly. So this very might well be true. Let's see. She said that when Richard Nunes was running the parks in the mid 1980s and 90s, it was all about ride capacity, but the new crop of Imagineers are all 23-year-old interns who never worked in operations, or middle-aged celebrity Imagineers who sniff their noses at the lowly theme park operators and their bosses as they glide away in their Tesla to a swanky West LA home. Now, I guess we can just go ahead and stop. Well, I'll read this next line. She says that the average salary at Walt Disney Imagineering could pay the salary of 3 or 4 theme park managers, and WDI is currently really out of touch with how theme parks operate. So we can sort of pause right there and just talk about all of that, because that's a lot of stuff to unpack in just a few sentences. Now, I'm sure you guys remember Alex and I talking about I think it was a couple months ago, of the rumors that the Iron Man experience was going to be coming to the new Marvel Land, and also the new Ant-Man Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters-ish style attraction was coming to Marvel Land as well, and that they were going to take the ride vehicles from Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, move them to the new Marvel Land, and take the ride simulators from Star Tours and move them to Marvel Land as well. But apparently they're only looking at one of these C-ticket attractions to open in 2020 with the new Marvel Land. And it was previously reported by other Disney news sources that the Marvel Land is set to open in different phases. So the 2020 C-ticket will be phase 1, and then later on maybe another e-ticket will open later on as phase 2, phase 3, all that, you guys know what I mean. But yeah, so the Big Avengers e-ticket roller coaster that everyone was talking about is supposedly canceled. I guess let's unpack this. Let's start with, I don't know who to choose. Okay, let's start with Alex this time, just because I started with him, or I started with Jeremy last time.
Oh, I'm supposed to start now. Okay. Okay.
We're getting ready to listen.
So I guess to reiterate my opinion on Marvel, I personally will probably never go. I am not a superhero fan of any kind, and it's just not my thing. But it must be fun for those who love Marvel and want to see Marvel in a theme park and have a place to go. So that's great for them. And besides, this Marvel Land may mean the redo of Tomorrowland, which I'm all for. So, I wonder. Well, you see, I wonder which ride they're gonna build first. Like what what Matt said, they're gonna take the Omnimover from Buzz Lightyear and put it in. Oh my! I just yawned. That just came out of nowhere. Okay, so okay, so they might take the Omnimover out of Buzz Lightyear and put it in Marvel Land, or they might take the simulators out of Star Tours and put that in Marvel Land. Either, I don't know which one they're going to go with first. I mean, because they said that they're going to make a ride out of the It's Tough to Be a Bug theater, and that theater isn't really all that big for either ride. When you think about it. So I'm wondering if they're just going to demolish the theater and build a bigger building in its place. I don't know. But if I had to guess, they might be taking the simulators out of Star Tours first before they do Buzz Lightyear. Because, first of all, Buzz Lightyear is still a very popular ride. Star Tours will no longer be necessary once Galaxy's Edge opens, so that ride's going to close because, let's face it, Disney's not going to want to keep running a ride that is of lesser quality than their fabulous Galaxy's Edge ride. And then, it's going to be great for them to cut that budget off finally, in Tomorrowland. So I think that they're probably going to take the simulators out of there first and move it over to Marvel Land first. And Sam says that. What was it, Sam? What did he just say? Oh no, Mateo said the Ant-Man ride is Buzz. But you know what? They could change that on you. They could, for all you know, they could turn the Ant-Man ride into the simulator. So. That you never know what's going to happen. So, what's the point of what I'm trying to say? The point is, I don't know, and I'm just happy that they're taking something out of Tomorrowland because it means that something new will go into Tomorrowland.
Okay. I just want to say I honestly feel like they'll put in whichever attraction will cost less. And I don't really know if it would cost less to move the Ant-Man or to move Buzz Lightyear to Marvel Land or to move the simulators to Marvel Land. I guess they don't really have to make a new video for the Iron Man simulator. So I don't really know which one would be cheaper. I just think the Buzz ride would be cheaper to move over. But again, I don't really know anything. So Jeremy, what about you?
Well, I can't really speak to the Marvel Land stuff. I expect it to be what I expect it to be. I think it's very clear what that land is going to be, and I don't. But I want to jump in and talk about the other things on the thread that you were mentioning, because that's very telling, and it's interesting because it's everything I thought was going on in the company, but when it's really confirmed like this, it's very surprising, because you don't want this to be true, but it is true, and that's important. One of the things that stands out to me the most, that I find the most surprising, is when she talks about the celebrity Imagineers who don't care about operations, or the people who work in the park. I don't know what celebrity Imagineers that the person's referring to, but what's surprising to me about that is that alone goes so directly against Walt's philosophy, and how Walt ran his company. He was all about going in, talking to the people who work in the park, going and visiting the park as a guest, not as a VIP guest, as a guest. He was so proactive in experiencing the park and wanting to know how it works and how things can be fixed from the people who are in the arena. And you know, so it's surprising to me that people on the creative side of the parks are against that as an idea. It makes sense because of all of these new rides that have horrible capacity. Which is just, you can make a great attraction and still think about capacity. I mean, but that is the most surprising part of it, and the most that angers me, actually, because of the place that I would think would not want to do that. I would expect that of corporate to think that way, to not care, not the Imagineers. That's insulting, but it makes sense because for a long time, ever since Iger came in, there was a gradual, and really when you think about it, it wasn't gradual, but there was a gradual weeding out of the second generation Imagineers who were mentored by, the pioneers of the field. Tim Delaney was let go in like 2009, and Valerie Edwards, who was the head sculptor at the time of that generation, who was the protege of Blaine Gibson. I mean, this is knowledge and artistry and craftsmanship that was passed down from generation to generation. All of those artists were weeded out, and I think the ones who remained, were the company men, the yes men, the people, and I hate to speculate people's character, but the people who would go, oh, okay, great, yeah, we don't, the company doesn't do that anymore, those aren't the values anymore, okay, that's fine. And so it's depressing to see that that's actually the reality, and that reality is coming from Imagineering as much as it's coming from corporate. But yeah, I hope this isn't pessimistic, but it is. It's depressing because it is the reality, and it's the reality being shown to us. It makes sense. It's very upsetting.
Well, I remember, I think a couple Matterhorn Mondays ago, I was talking about how when I was at Disney, a friend of mine who knows a lot of people in high places in Disney, he and I were having a conversation about how this survey went into Imagineering, and it was basically talking about how, like, how after Imagineering creates a ride or whatever, the company then operates the ride separately from Imagineering, as you would expect, because it's now turned over to the Parks division instead of Imagineering. And then what happens is the ride falls into disrepair, or something happens to it and it's altered, or they take out animatronics, or something, changes are made. And so the survey asked, one of the questions was to the Imagineers, which is like, how do the Imagineers feel about Disney not maintaining the rides that they just created for them, and also altering them without Imagineering's overseeing of it. And basically, Imagineering came back with the answer of, I don't care. And and so it just, and this was back in like 2012 when I heard this, and so it was really sad for me then, because then I realized then that Imagineering is no longer about, like, oh, let's create entertainment for entertainment's sake. Imagineering is now a bunch of people who are just working for their paychecks. They're not doing it to create something amazing or something that works well in the parks. I mean, it's evident in the fact that they don't create rides that are high enough capacity for the amount of crowds that are gonna hit them. I mean, look at Radiator Springs Racers. It is famously, low capacity for the amount of popularity that they knew it was going to have, and yet they didn't do anything to try to increase its capacity. And so, and it's all because they don't really care about how the park operates the ride. They don't care about the wait times or anything. What they care about is just getting their job done and doing it in a way that pleases their bosses and stuff like that. There's no like, hey, how can we improve the guest experience? It's more like, hey, how can we make this ride like the movie and still exciting? But they don't pay any attention to the operational necessities of the ride. So yeah, it's sad for me to hear stuff like that come from Imagineering, because that's totally against what Imagineering was founded upon, which was to keep improving and making better. Instead, Imagineering is just throwing new rides and attractions out there without caring whether or not people will like them, or that people will be comfortable in them. I mean, look at the ride, the Navi River Journey. It is so lacking in a story,
in anything.
In anything. I mean, it's lacking in everything, and they put no effort into it. They just went, you know what? As long as it looks like you're in the movie, and as long as we have this new amazing animatronic that we've been working on, it'll be fine. And the next thing you know, the ride is just a huge disappointment, and it's sad. It's just real.
I've always said about the Navi River Journey is that it's like Pirates of the Caribbean if it ended after the Blue Bayou sequence.
Yeah.
It's a great opening to an attraction. It's not, you can't just, the ride is a setup. It's this really kind of nice atmospheric build, and when I was on it, I was like, "Oh, this is refreshing. They don't do this anymore." And then it ended before even Act 1.
Yeah.
That's clearly not even studying your artistic history of what it means to make a theme park attraction. Maybe that's too harsh, because I'm sure they have.
Even look at Flight of Passage. It took them no imagination to make that ride. All they did was ask, or what's it called? James Cameron's computer animation company. I forget what it's called. Lightstorm, I think. They asked Lightstorm Entertainment, okay, create this ride video for us, and meanwhile, we're going to create the ride vehicle. And all they did was just take ideas from Soarin's ride system and then just duplicate that. And next thing you know, the main part of the ride that makes it so great is the stuff that Lightstorm Entertainment did, which of course they're going to do something really great, but then the actual ride system doesn't really do anything for you. It's just like, it took no effort, is what I'm trying to say. It took no effort.
Okay, so this is fascinating, because I think we're coming from the same place, but I have almost a complete opposite viewpoint of that attraction. I think the ride system does everything. I don't think anyone cares at all that it's Avatar, and if that ride system, I see nothing wrong with improving the Soarin' ride system and repurposing it for a different experience. I think that's exactly what Disney does. Understanding the raw, bare bones framework of an attraction and then, really, and then making it seem new and fresh. I think that's great. If that ride system was used for something more related to Animal Kingdom, it would be so much more of a profound experience than just, oh wow, because people walk out exhilarated. I walked out of that attraction totally just exhilarated, but it was not because at all that it was Avatar. It was because of the experience that the ride system gave me. And if you match that ride system with something more, something that has a bigger emotional impact, then you'd have one of the greatest attractions Disney ever made. It makes me think of with Soarin' Over California. I think I probably mentioned this on one of the times I was a guest on here, but when Jerry Goldsmith, who did the score, the beautiful, amazing, perfect score to Soarin' Over California, he went on the attraction and he came off sobbing and offered to do the score for free because it had such a profound impact. And that attraction does, because it's related to the world. It's somehow related to an emotional part of who we are. And I think that is what Disney does best. And I think it's partly because of the rides. I don't think it's the Avatar stuff that makes that attraction work. I think it is the ride system. And if it was related to something more profoundly relevant to the human spirit, I don't know, then it would be one of the greatest attractions Disney ever made in recent years.
No.
Well, I'm gonna fundamentally disagree with you on this one.
No.
Well, let's see. Getting back to Marvel Land, let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, well, basically the remaining part of this Marvel Land part is saying that Marvel Land will be completed in phases that will stretch into the 2020s. But how much money it gets and how many rides get built will depend on Anaheim Politics in 2019. So, that's it for that. Now, moving on to the second point, which is Anaheim Politics. Now, I'm sure you guys are aware of sort of the feud Disney's been having with Anaheim. We've surely talked about it a bunch of times on the show, and but yeah, let's get right into this part. Let's see. Apparently, Josh DeMauro, the new Disneyland Resort president, is I don't think I'm going to have much to say about this part, just because I don't really know the business side of things. But Josh DeMauro, the new Disneyland Resort president, is a breath of fresh air compared to his predecessor, or the person he replaced. Is that the right word? Okay. Compared to the person he replaced, Mr. Colgeyser, I don't think I pronounced that right. Colglazier. I still probably said it wrong. But apparently he was out of touch and got too caught up in, quote, the hoity-toity world of charity balls and celebrity visits. Mr. DeMauro is smart, but he also has a more egalitarian view and has no problem interacting with frontline cast members of the type Mr. Colgazier was happy to avoid. I'm just going to stop saying it. The person Mr. DeMauro replaced always needed to remind everyone that he was the smartest guy in the room, and that he went to Stanford and was better than you, and that he was above you socio-economically. That reminds me of Andy Bernard from The Office. But Mr. Colgazier, that's not Colglazier. Is that right?
Oh my god.
Yes.
Okay. His wife was an absolute snob and a bore to talk to, while Mr. DeMauro has a more natural ability to connect with blue-collar and frontline cast members. Let's see if I can just skip all this part. Okay. There were very few people in Team Disney, TDA, which I believe stands for Team Disney Anaheim, I think.
That's correct.
Yes. All right, I got it right. Okay. Very few people
It's Disney A, actually.
Disney. Okay. Okay. There were very few people in TDA who were sad to see Mr. Colglazier leave, while a growing group of old-timers are warming quickly to Mr. DeMauro. I've pronounced that name like 5 different times also. He scored big points by throwing out the dismissive political agreements that Mr. Colglazier crafted in 2015 to 2018. And while things are still icy with Anaheim City Hall, things are definitely better than they were before he arrived. It will depend on which way the election in November goes to see if Disneyland moves forward with some very big investment plans for the parks and the western edge of the property around Disneyland Drive. Okay, now, who did I start with last time? I think it was Alex, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Let's go with Jeremy this time. Thoughts on this whole thing about the politics between Anaheim and Disneyland?
That's actually one of the hardest news points for me to follow just in recent years in general. I don't really know enough about this particular field to comment on these very specific points. I do know that it's important that Disney obviously has good relations with the city of Anaheim. So that's really all I have to say. I'm sure Alex will spark something in me.
Whenever I hear Jeremy talk, it reminds me that he does not seem like a Californian, because we all have our opinions, and it's like he never has an opinion.
Oh, I have opinions. I just I don't have enough information about this particular topic to have one. But you'll bring them out, Alex. You always do.
Well, I remember when Michael Colglazier became the resort president.
Colglazier. Okay.
Yes.
I think I got it.
I remember when he
You did
became
not.
resort president, and I was working at Blue Bayou at the time. And I remember they were telling us, like, oh, this is the new resort president. This is what he looks like. Because we have to know who he is and what he looks like and stuff like that. I don't know why, but they make us do that. And I just remember, like, when I read about this guy, I'm like, this guy is a boob. Like, it's like the worst thing to come to, to Disneyland Resort. Like, he is the most boring guy ever, has no imagination, no, like, nothing. He doesn't even have the Disney magic. He doesn't even know. He's just a businessman, just an executive. That's all this guy is. He's just words on paper. He has no soul. And so I was just like, I'm like, this is terrible. Like, where does Disney find these people? Like, I'm like, there are some amazing people, like George Kalogridis, who is now the resort president of Walt Disney World. He was resort president of Disneyland before he went to Walt Disney World, and he was amazing. He started off as a bus boy, and he was a really great guy, and he moved his way up, and he's got the Disney magic, and he's all about Disney. And anyway. And Michael Colglazier, he's just about business, and I'm a businessman, and blah blah blah, and even then I just don't agree with any of the stuff he did, because he didn't care about Disneyland. He did not care about Disneyland Resort. I have to underline that. He does not care about Disneyland Resort. All he cared about was, does the spending make me look good? and, do the numbers and the attendance make me look good. That's all he cared about. So anyway, that was kind of a rant on Michael Colglazier. But
No.
so what I was going to say was that I'm really hoping that this new resort president loves Disneyland and is all about improving it and being a part of the magic. And the other thing too is, I think that Disneyland Resort and Anaheim need to have a good relationship. I know that a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter? But it does matter, because Disneyland Resort and Anaheim work together to expand the resort, to do amazing things for the guests, to they need Anaheim on their side when they need to do something major to the resort that benefits us. If Anaheim is not on their side, then bad things happen. Look at this hotel. It's now on hold, and we'll get to that later on, I think, right? Yeah. So I don't want to, spoil that now, but, that's on hold and stuff like that. And so, anyway, I think Anaheim and Disney need to be on the same page. They need to be good friends. And what we need is a resort president who will maintain that relationship. Michael Colglazier didn't give a rat's butt about it. Didn't give a Mickey's butt about it. And, so...
Mickey's butt. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so... so that is my rant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think that makes sense to me. I mean, when you look at the chain of corporate command, I think it's all people who don't care about the parks, quite frankly, who just look at the numbers, all the way up to Iger. To be quite frank, I think that's abundantly clear. So I mean, we'll see what happens now that this guy's out the door. So we'll see.
Yeah, you guys can give your thoughts on all of this in the comments, because, like Jeremy, I don't really know enough about all this politics stuff to really give an opinion. I just hope that he's better than the last person, and he helps bring the parks back to their full form, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But moving on to our third bullet point, which just happens to be about the new hotel Disney was planning, or possibly is still planning, on a building over on downtown Disney. So let's see. Okay. It was a sigh of relief for many in TDA to back away from the fourth hotel because they felt the design and placement were second-rate. There's hope that the delay, which may be years long, will allow Walt Disney Imagineering to rethink their design and certainly the placement of the fourth hotel. A version of the Star Wars Hotel boutique experience is also tentatively slated for Anaheim in the early 2020s, but it depends on the Anaheim Politics. The talk of Disney building something in Garden Grove is not just talk. Bob Chapek and North American Parks boss Catherine Powell personally visited a... It's just... I don't even know anymore.
Catherine.
That's what it's spelled... okay. Catherine... I did it again. Okay. Catherine Powell personally visited a big chunk of land on Harbor Boulevard in Garden Grove this summer that would become the site of a new Disney hotel if the Measure L passes in Anaheim this November. Garden Grove politicians are being very quiet, but they'd love to pull the rug out from underneath Anaheim and score this Harbor Boulevard property. It's a real thing, not just bluster. Burbank is ready to pull the trigger on Garden Grove expansion if Anaheim turns socialist this November. So... lots of stuff. I told you guys this was going to be a long but a good episode. Lots of stuff to get into here. Now, the fourth hotel, let's see. I don't even know where to start. I'm glad that the hotel has been postponed, like this person here is saying. Maybe it'll give them time to change the design and even the placement as well, because I think we can all collectively agree that the new hotel didn't really scream Disney. And it didn't especially belong where they were going to build it, right next to the Disneyland hotel.
Poor planning. I'm so glad they're not doing this. And I just looked up Measure L because I actually want to join the conversation.
Okay.
It's the Measure L is for the city of Anaheim is the initiative ordinance to increase minimum wage for hospitality industry employers, payable by hospitality industry employers. So that directly affects the hotel industry. So just so you know.
Well, thank you, because I had no idea what Measure L was.
And that gives a lot of context, in my opinion. The fact that they're willing to not build a hotel if they have to pay their employees more, that's sick and sad, even though I disagree with them making the hotel in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. Also, Garden Grove. I'm trying to picture in my head where that is. I think I can picture where in the vicinity Garden Grove is from Disneyland.
Matt, if you pull up the map,
yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Okay.
Because I know exactly where they want to build this hotel.
Ooh, perfect. Okay. So,
yeah.
Let's see. I guess
okay,
I can
now
search. Okay. Yeah, you could probably
just
tell
travel.
Me.
Yeah, just keep traveling down from Harbor Boulevard, and zoom in slightly more, just so you can see it. Just zoom in. What? I can't see what's going on here. Okay.
I know. So we have a lag.
Okay, so keep going down till you see Chapman Avenue intersecting Harbor Boulevard.
Okay.
And sorry, this thing is delayed, so I can't see it in real time as what Matt's doing it, but I'm just waiting. Okay, so I think that's Chapman. Okay, now go down a little bit further until you see two large plots of land straddling Harbor Boulevard that are empty.
Okay.
So go down just a little bit.
I think this is what you're talking about.
And there they are. There's a bus stop in between them. Yeah.
That's so far.
Yeah. So that's about a mile and a half from Disneyland, but it's right near the resort district, and on both those sides, you can even go to Street View and you can look at them from the street. And so they're huge plots of land. Where there used to be businesses and things like that, and recently Garden Grove tore them all out in hopes of building hotels there. Actually, Garden Grove wanted hotels to open up there. So and just further south is the Great Wolf Lodge with its indoor water park. So if Disney builds hotels here, it will not only be to benefit Disneyland, but it'll be to benefit the water park nearby. So it's actually a good thing for them. So either side of the street there, you've got huge plots of land big enough to build a hotel of any size you want. I mean, it's just huge. And I believe the plot of land on the west, which is on your left, they can remove that little street that goes through it. They can remove that. And then that'll just be even part of the bigger plot of land. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really far. You said a mile away.
Mile and a half, yeah.
That makes me think they have more tricks in their sleeves. That's so far. From Disneyland to feel like it's a part of staying at Disneyland being a resort. It's very sketchy to me, and I think the argument if it'll help other things in the area, I think that's a good selling argument. I don't think it actually will, because I think they have other tricks up their sleeve. That's so odd to me. When you zoom out, you really can see how far away that is. I don't. That's a horrible idea.
Uh-huh.
I think that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
unless
I mean,
they have like, they already have buses, but maybe like, this is just wishful
I would-
thinking, but like a gondola to take them to the Esplanade, or maybe like the monorail. I don't know. I'm sure that won't happen, but
It would be really interesting to have a monorail expand through the city of Anaheim. That would be great. But I don't know what they're planning. That just seems way too far away to um to to work with the idea that they've been pushing for the past 20 years of making Disneyland more of a resort, a consolidated, resort. It's weird.
yeah, I'm with you guys on the fact that I think that a Disney hotel should be on property and not off property. I still hope that Disney will still try to, because I've always been saying that Disney should have a fourth hotel, even a fifth one. I believe that they need more hotels on property. They need a budget hotel. They need, and then everything up to, really amazing. But they need some really nice hotels on Disneyland Resort. But yeah, there is a possibility that they may build off the resort just to make Anaheim angry. So
Yeah, but that's yeah, I haven't really. I don't know if I fully agree that Disneyland needs an abundance of hotels. I don't know. The forcing of making Disneyland this grand resort, I don't know if it's worked. I mean, it's probably worked in its favor in terms of admission, but it's made the park feel much more crammed. They're forcing an extravagance to it as a vacation resort as opposed to a place you visit, and I don't know if I don't know if more hotels works for two parks. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think it will, because if you think about it, they're planning expansions of Marvel, Star Wars,
Within the same
redoing.
space.
Yes, but that makes it so they can say that, oh, Disneyland is no longer one day kind of place. It's more like they can say, oh, I can already see the commercials right now saying, oh, Disneyland takes more than one day to see it all. Like,
Well, it's certainly going to take one day because all these low capacity rides are going to be put in. That's why.
Yeah, well, looking at this, it says 39-minute walk from that location to the Esplanade. So, I know no one would want to walk 39 minutes just to get from their hotel to the park. I'm sure some
they would
people
have
would.
a shuttle.
Yeah, but
there's something about there's a big selling point of staying in a Disney hotel has always been convenient access to the parks. You can wake up in the morning and walk right in.
Yeah, but what about Aulani? That was built all the way out in Hawaii with no theme parks or anything there.
That's completely different. That's the Disney Vacation Club. That's their shareholder thing around the world. This is supposed to be a Disney hotel. That's this is right by Disneyland. I think that's a false equivalency.
No.
That's a false. I think that's a false equivalency. This isn't supposed to be like anything of what that resort is. This is supposed to be a hotel for the Disneyland resort. So I don't agree with that.
No.
okay.
Huh? Well,
Disney Doof does says that Tokyo Disneyland does have a hotel that's off property that is around a 20-minute shuttle away. So, just to put that in some perspective this.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I think that's gonna wrap up this part. Let's see. That's basically everything. Garden Grove. Yeah. So let me get back to this. Okay, moving on to Galaxy's Edge. There's only 3 more bullet points that we're going to be going through here. All right.
As everyone slowly leaves.
This is interesting stuff, guys. If you guys want to, you can read the whole article down in the description below. But
it's particularly interesting because this is like Alex and I have some disagreements on some issues.
Yeah, I know.
So that's a new and exciting thing.
Okay, so let's see. Getting to Galaxy's Edge. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. Scary reality is setting in with the operations teams. The hourly capacity of both the Star Wars rides combined will be barely more than the hourly capacity of Pirates of the Caribbean, but with 5 times the demand. And they say ops, and ops mean the managers who control the rides, who apparently are also crowd control and land entry processes. Ops is trying to decide how the land entry strategy will work, and they fully expect to have to close the land continually due to overcrowding. There is also concern that the Battle Escape attraction has very sketchy reliability and will have long closures each day. It has 3 different ride systems, and the trackless system is very touchy and will stop working for long periods of time. The walkways and passageways on the eastern sides of the land are very narrow. The courtyards and inner arcades are also small and narrow. Think New Orleans Square size. The fear is that the land will fill to capacity within the first hour or 2 of the park opening, and then people in the land won't want to leave, and lines will form to get in on the Big Thunder Trail entrance area. It will be ugly, and it will be very crowded. Walt Disney Imagineering is not being very helpful and keep insisting that no cast members be allowed inside the land who aren't in Star Wars attire. The Star Wars cast members won't even wear Disneyland name tags, but a new Star Wars name tag to identify them as cast members. Okay. There is currently no plan on how to manage the park entry turnstiles and Esplanade in the morning next summer. It's getting kind of scary because it's only months away, and too many important departments still don't have a hint of a plan on how they will manage. The current goal is to open on Memorial Day weekend, but that may slip to the first week of June. If it rains a lot this winter, that could impact the opening date as well. So, gosh, this is just so much stuff to just get into. Now, it's crazy to think that Galaxy's Edge is only like, just barely, I feel like barely under a year to opening, because it's going to open in 2019. According to this person, Memorial Day is the scheduled or the planned grand opening day for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. But it's just really crazy to think that it feels like just a few days ago we were just barely looking at the first concept art they released for it. But now, as we were saying earlier, the hourly capacity of both Star Wars attractions will be barely more than the hourly capacity of Pirates of the Caribbean, but they say with, of course, 5 times the demand. So, this is just crazy, crazy things. We might as well just get right into it. Let's let Alex start this time. Alex, what are your thoughts on the overcrowding situation when it comes to... We were just talking about overcrowding a couple weeks ago, too. But, Alex, what are your thoughts on the overcrowding problem that's going to arise once Galaxy's Edge opens?
You know, I totally believe this part of the news update about Disney being frantic to figure out how they're gonna manage the crowds, because I totally believe it, because this is what happens all the time at Disneyland. Is like something new happens, and then like the lower level cast members don't get told until the day it happens, what they're gonna do to manage something. So like, what was it? I remember I was here for the 60th anniversary, and they wanted to have that long, what do they call it? Where I think it was like it was more than 24 hours, I think. the operating day that they had.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, they had the park open for like a marathon length of time.
Yeah.
And like the park did not plan how they were going to do this until, well, actually they did plan it, but they didn't tell the cast members until the day it happened. And everybody was like running around like chickens with their head cut off, just trying to manage the crowds. Like the Esplanade was filled to capacity with people. I mean, there were lines going out to Harbor Boulevard, and there was no plan on how to help people and get them into Disneyland. And so, you know what? This is going to be a problem. I just know it. I mean, you know, the upper level Disney people, such as the executives, may have an idea of how they're going to do stuff, but they're not going to tell the people that they need to tell in the right amount of time and get them ready, you know. And then on top of that, mostly, you know, Disney doesn't care about the overcrowding issue when it comes to a big event like this. What they care about is the money that they earn from it. So they're not going to prepare very well for it. I mean, they will be somewhat prepared. Most likely, you're going to see people, cast members at the entrances of the land, letting people in and out, that kind of thing. I'm not quite sure how they're going to figure out how many people is too many people and how many people are leaving versus how many people are going in. I don't know how they're going to do that. But all I know is it's going to be a nightmare when the place opens. And I agree about the rides. I mean, granted, they do say that the Millennium Falcon ride is supposed to be a high capacity with 2,500 people per hour, which is equivalent to what Pirates of the Caribbean does today. Not what it did when it opened, which was, I think, about 3,000 people per hour. But today, Pirates of the Caribbean does about 2,500 people per hour. So, Battle Escape alone, the Millennium Falcon ride alone should be able to handle some good crowds. But honestly, it should have an even higher capacity than that in order to handle the popularity that this land will be popular for at least, you know, another 5 years of overcrowding, honestly. And then, you know, for the next 5 years after that, you're still seeing a high amount of people in the land. So, I mean, just look at Harry Potter Land, which is like always crowded. So, anyway, and look at Cars Land. The line for Radiator Springs Racers to this day can still be 2 hours long, and the place opened in 2012. So, you know, so I do believe that Galaxy's Edge will be always filled to capacity for the next 5 years at least. So, in any case, I do think we're going to see problems with the Battle Escape attraction, because just like the lady said, it's got 3 separate ride systems from what I understand. I mean, they're all the same type of ride system, but you get off and you transfer. That is a nightmare. Imagine if one of them breaks down, then all the others back up and they break down. It's just like the Indiana Jones Adventure. I mean, they, you know, it's all one ride system, but the individual vehicles act like their own individual ride. And so when one breaks down or something happens with one, it backs up the whole system. So anyway, this place is gonna be an operational nightmare, and I am gonna be so excited to film it.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Jeremy, what about you?
I mean, I agree. It's going to be an operations nightmare. And I think even the idea of putting Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland in general was, at the very start, going to be a poor operations move. And aside from everything I've had to say about it being a poor artistic move. So we'll see. You know, the other side of me, as much as I really against Galaxy's Edge being in the park in the first place, everyone was saying that Disneyland was going to be a huge operations nightmare and wasn't going to work, and here we are today. So we'll see. They'll figure it out. I have no doubt about that. Of course, we'll still have this tumor in the back of Disneyland, but I I think it's going to be really bad. I do think it's going to be a nightmare, but I don't think it's going to like combust. I think it will survive, and I think it won't be as bad as we think it's going to be, but I do think it's going to be very bad. So yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like eventually Disney will get their footing, like you said, but it'll probably take like the rides breaking down 5 to like 10 times a day for like a year for them to like finally get it down.
And as a result, I mean, the analogy to Indiana Jones is a perfect example. All the little nice, clever, nuanced details that make the attraction and special are probably going to be thrown to the wayside because they have an operations nightmare to fix. Which, you know, and it seems like the selling points to these attractions are those nuanced, you know, things. And that's why I was saying the last time I was on, I think, that I wonder how, or no, I wasn't saying the last time I was on, I was saying in the comments, I think, was it last week or the week before, I don't know how long those nuanced things are going to last because of this huge thing that they have to deal with. So we'll see.
You know, I just have to add this. It has nothing to do with the operational stuff, but I do have to say that I'm excited for the fact that Galaxy's Edge has these little alleys and these little courtyards and things.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that because that's something you don't usually see at a Disney park anymore. At least not since New Orleans Square.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's some stuff like that in some countries in the World Showcase. But in terms of at like Disneyland, yeah.
The one thing I don't know how they're going to figure out is, because they're saying that there's going to be a big line, apparently, that's going to be outside the Big Thunder entrance to Galaxy's Edge. It's just going to look so strange. Like, how are they going to arrange the line? I don't know. I'm trying to picture like where the end of the line will be, because I can picture in my head the line wrapping maybe to like the end of New Orleans Square. I mean, I'm sure they might cut it off at like some point, but I can honestly picture the line to get into Galaxy's Edge, maybe even going down past to the Haunted Mansion, or maybe even up to Splash Mountain. I don't know. Like I said, they could like cut off the line at like a certain distance, but it's just gonna be so strange to see like this long line of just people waiting to get into the land. Or well, Disney Doof says the line will be out of the park, so that could be another option instead of just having the line inside. But
yeah, you know what?
It's possible.
When Cars Land opened in 2012, the line for Radiator Springs Racers went out of Cars Land, through Pacific Wharf, across the bridge. It turned around over where Mermaid is, and went through Paradise Pier all the way to Mickey's Fun Wheel.
oh.
That's how long the line for Cars for Radiator Springs Racers was, and guess how long that was? That was a 9-hour long line.
Oh my god! I don't well, to each their own. I wouldn't wait 9 hours.
I certainly wouldn't wait either. But another thing that we haven't really talked about is how cast members aren't going to be allowed inside the land who aren't dressed appropriately for Star Wars Land. Because as many of you may know, Star Wars Land is going to be like fully immersive. You won't see like a Big Thunder cast member walking around in Galaxy's Edge like you normally do. Like in the rest of the park, like sometimes you see like a Haunted Mansion employee eating their lunch, maybe even in or like walking through the parks with like their lunchbox or something. So apparently that's not going to be happening. Also apparently they won't even have Disneyland name tags, but a new Star Wars name tag. That's going to be, I don't know how that's going to be. I don't know how well that will translate.
It's just that, then why put this in Disneyland?
Yeah.
it just the logic is, well, they don't follow the rules of logic, or creativity, but that's just, then why put this land in Disneyland? That makes no sense to me. Okay.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what WHOMP stood for, because they were saying, but a Wizarding World of Harry Potter. That makes...
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what the heck that stood for. But,
I was like, what? WWOH? I'm like, what?
Womp, what is Womp? But yeah. Oh my gosh. But, yeah, so it's really, I don't know. I just really don't know. I'd love to see, like, opening day, like, first person in line footage of, like, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Just, like,
we will.
It's
gonna be trending everywhere when this opens.
Yeah, like, I just really love to see how all of this unfolds, because I'm probably not gonna get a chance to be there, like, opening month. I don't want to be there opening month, or, like, probably, like, the next 2 months after. Yeah, I'm just really interested to see how all of this will unfold, how everything will work out. I also heard a while back that there won't be any names on the attractions. Something along the lines of how they won't have signage, is what I'm trying to say. Signage to show where the attraction is. It'll be sort of themed differently. It won't be like a flat out sign like Indiana Jones Adventure.
That's dumb.
Yeah, so.
Well, I just think that just because it seems more abundantly clear to me how this should have been another theme park.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to necessarily be at Disneyland, just anywhere. It seems abundantly clear to me that they wanted to rush so quickly into utilizing their newly purchased franchise that they didn't want to spend the time to craft an individual theme park where all of these interesting immersive ideas sound really cool for that experience. Yeah. But they thought, okay, well, because we want to do it really quickly, we'll just lump it in the back corner at Disneyland. It's such poor thinking. Creatively, it was rushed. That seems clear. And now it's going to be an operations nightmare. That is insane. It's dumb, as Alex just said. Dumb.
Yeah, and I was just thinking also, because I think it was last week. It could have been a couple weeks ago, but it might have been last week where we reported that Michael Eisner said they weren't going to be pushing or making as many new Star Wars movies because of the audience's reaction to, like, how many movies they were pumping out, and of course, like, the critical reception to all the movies they've released. So it's kind of weird to, like, look at that in contrast with, like, Disney rushing so much with Galaxy's Edge. Like, they were, like, in contrast to how much they were rushing with the movies as well.
I think they realized. I think reality kind of hit Iger in the sense that they were like, oh, we're actually dealing with a beloved piece of art, of film, and the people who love this stuff they care more about quality than they do about just more and more Star Wars, more and more every day. And we all think that's common sense about anything. I hope he turns on that in terms of the theme parks. But I thought that was very wise of him to take a step back and go, you know what? Actually, wait, I think people don't just want to eat up more and more and more and more and be stuffed. They want actually good stuff. So I thought that was wise of him. But yeah, the parks, the Galaxy's Edge is totally a result of that thinking, and I'm sure they're scrambling, going, "Oh my God, is this land going to be a disaster?" I think it might be. I think there'll be huge hype, but I think there's totally room for the fact that it's only used as a promotional tool for the new stuff that they want. We're going to be churning out every second of every day. I think that's a huge mistake, and they're going to kind of have to learn that that's actually not what people want.
Yeah, it's just, gosh, I don't know. It's just so strange to think all this is actually happening. This is not like an alternate reality, like universe. This is actually happening.
I feel that way about the world we currently live in
That
general.
too, yeah. That too. But yes, Galaxy's Edge is opening next year, guys. So be prepared. I wonder if they delay the opening into 2020. I wonder if that would be like an actual like reality. Like if they do like soft opens and like things just go terribly, I wonder if they'll push it to 2020. That'd be really crazy.
Maybe not 2020, but I can see them postponing it an additional 6 months or something like that. There's still time for them. There's still time for them to throw in a delay. I don't know if I think if they threw in a year delay, people would start to get very skeptical about the quality of the land. But it's not too late for them to go, actually, we're going to open in time for the holiday season, not for the summer season.
Do you guys think there will be adequate restrooms in Galaxy's Edge?
Oh, gosh. I haven't even thought of that.
Because
that's a good question.
You know, I've been looking at restrooms at Disneyland and stuff like that, and while there is usually 2 sets of restrooms per land, normally, I mean, not all lands are like that, but it's funny because even the lands with 2 restrooms usually have small restrooms. Like they're like tiny. Like, have you seen the restrooms by Rancho del Zocalo? They are tiny.
Yes.
And yet there's like so many people waiting for them. And as a cast member, the number 1 complaint I heard was you guys don't have enough restrooms. And so I'm wondering, like, will Galaxy's Edge, I mean, I'm hoping Galaxy's Edge will have at least 2 sets of restrooms, and that they'll be big. They'll be big, like giant, like get lost restrooms.
I think they'll have more than 2. It's the largest land in the park. There'll be at least 2 sets of large restrooms, and there'll be restrooms in the cantina, and there'll be other. I think the restrooms will be fine.
What about drinking fountains?
That might be an issue. But I'm sure they'll scatter them around. Or not, or they won't, but that's something that the drinking fountains can be easily fixed. They can go back and go, ooh, we need more drinking fountains. Bathrooms, that's going to take some, okay, this little store that's not doing well, okay, that's going on, and now it's the bathroom. That'll be more of an issue, but I think the bathrooms will be fine. I think they'll figure the bathroom thing.
And do you think people will be able to navigate Star Wars land without getting lost? Like,
not right away.
Oh,
No. Say your what if. Say your what if.
I was gonna say, what if people are on in one area of the land and they go, excuse me, where are the restrooms? And the cast member goes, well, pull out your notepad because we gotta give you some directions here.
That's possible because it is the largest land in the park, and they're designing it, I hope, to be like you're on a different planet with different, it's supposed to be like a functioning city, so that's pretty cool. So I can imagine people getting lost, but more so for the fact that it's gonna feel like a new place.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I think certainly people will be like, wait, where's this? Well, you go down this alleyway and that alleyway,
I'm also, I don't know, this is just like my last thoughts on Galaxy's Edge. I'm wondering if they're going to dedicate, because there are 3 entrances to Galaxy's Edge. I wonder if they're going to dedicate just maybe 1 or 2 for entry, and maybe just have maybe like the one in Critter Country be like just as the exit, just so they can maybe regulate more the guest flow. That might be something else they might be trying to do. I don't know.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, if anything, I think that the entryway that is over by Thunder Pond is probably going to be the one where it's exit only, if anything. But because how much would it suck if you walked all the way to Hungry Bear to get to Star Wars Land, and then you find out, oh, this is the exit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyways, I think that's enough on Galaxy's Edge. Let's head over to our 5th topic. There's only one more after this, guys, so hang in there. This last one is about Bob Chapek. This one shouldn't take too long, but the lady who is providing our poster the information of all this, she says that it's becoming apparent that Bob Chapek is absolutely clueless on how to run theme parks. It's been a couple of years since he arrived, and all he knows how to do is cut budgets and see what's the least he can get away with. He's not as bad as Paul Pressler was 20 years ago, but it's not good. This is you guys are gonna love this. Mr. Chapek rarely visits the parks, and when he does, he valet parks his car at the Grand Californian and gets a VIP attendant who ushers his family in through the exits on all the rides and saves them reserved seats for every parade. And then on Monday, he pretends to talk about how he, quote, experienced the parks, based on that white glove treatment. But all that really does is remind everyone in the conference room that he is clueless and has no idea what the experience is like for paying customers who wait in long lines and overcrowded facilities. He still focuses most on consumer products division that he also oversees, and they are losing a lot of money there. No one has any idea who may replace him, but his first lieutenant is a woman named Catherine, that's pronounced right, from Disneyland Paris, who is thought to be savvier and smarter than him. So I'm sure you guys loved hearing that. Let's get into it.
I don't love hearing that. I mean, because it's like not my greatest fear, but it's like I would have loved. No, I don't love hearing that because I don't want to be right about this stuff. But but that's where we are, and that's who he is. And that explains everything. I mean that explains everything that's been going on with the look at him. That explains
just
everything.
Look at his face. Oh goodness.
No, that explains everything. I mean, it's comforting in the sense of, oh, okay, like this person can be replaced. It's not fully Iger that's responsible for the parks. Maybe they don't get along. Who knows? So, yeah.
Bryce said he looks so punchable. Nate says, "Get that off my screen." So dying, you guys. I purposefully tried to find the ugliest picture I could find of him, and like the one where his face is like the most prominent, just so you guys would have to look at him.
We need to win with words.
Never trust a guy with a pointy nose like a bee.
Oh my god. Okay, what is that image? Does my computer have a virus? Oh my god. Okay, anyways, Alex, what are your thoughts on Voldemort?
Voldemort.
Now we're gonna lose all credibility if we go down this route.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Alex, what are your thoughts on Bob Chapek and everything that's been said about him so far?
Everything anyone has ever said about him has been totally true. I think they need to get rid of him. I think they need to beg Tom Staggs to come back and take his job back. And we need to beat up Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek.
Bald Chapek. Is it Chapek or Chapek? I don't even care. Bob, it's... yeah.
I say Chapek, but I could be wrong. I've never heard his name said out loud.
Guys like that give us Pixar peer.
That is true.
Anyways. Okay. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to say about Mr. Bob Chapek?
I just did, but now I'm forgetting what I had to say. Oh god, what was I gonna say?
That one time that Jeremy has an opinion.
I think there's been plenty more times.
Can we all just agree that his name is Bald Shaved Head? Oh, okay. That's the last one I'm gonna read. That's the last one.
Bob Chapek. Oh yeah, I wonder. I don't know if you know more about this, Alex, but do the two Bobs do they get along? I remember reading. They probably do. I remember I was reading something, some interview with Harriet Burns, this was during the transition period from Eisner to Iger, and she was saying something along the lines. She was asked what she thinks of Iger coming in, and she said something of, I heard that Iger visits the park, just like Walt did, and maybe that's a good sign. And so I'm wondering if in Iger there is kind of someone who wants to do good for the company, not just for the shareholders. And I wonder if Chapek is like the one getting in the way.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the optimist, and maybe we should blame both of them. But I don't know if you know more about the politics revolving the two of them.
To be honest, I don't know about the politics between the two of them, but I do have to agree that Bob Iger is definitely, if it wasn't for the fact that he has to make everybody happy, he would be like the perfect CEO of the company.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got everybody tugging him this way and that way, telling him you need to do this and you need to do that, and he may be the CEO of the company, but the company is pulling his strings like a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
So
because it's an empire. Yeah.
Yes. And so honestly, Bob Iger, in my opinion, if it wasn't for his limitations, he would probably be the best CEO we've had. He cares a lot about the company. He cares a lot about Walt Disney's legacy and about
that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I think
because I don't see that very often. I don't see that really very much at all.
When he first became when he was I forget what his title was back when he was under Michael Eisner. He was Michael Eisner's second guy, and back then he was very, very much in touch with Disney, very much showed his love of it. But since he became the CEO himself, he's had to show a different kind of respect to the company. He could no longer be the fun, playful guy who, loving Disney. Now he's, just the guy that runs the company. So it's unfortunate, and I do think that Bob Chapek gets in his way, honestly. And I think that the board of the company likes Bob Chapek because he saves them money and stuff like that. He knows how to sell something and get his money's worth out. That's what Bob Chapek's about. And unfortunately, Bob Iger is not that kind of person. He's not the kind of person that's like, okay, let's squeeze every drop out of this. It's more like, let's give people something to remember, So,
well, I hope that's true of him, because it's so easy, and I'm sure he feels the weight of this too. It's so easy to go, well, it's all Iger. It's all Iger doing this. It's all Iger that wants all of these different things, and maybe maybe that's partly true, because I don't know if at least he hasn't exhibited the kind of the creativity and understanding of what the theme parks specifically are. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about,
Yeah, that's weird because they said they don't know who's gonna replace him. So that sort of like sends the message that he'll be here for a while longer. until they find someone ideal to replace him. But anyways, I think that's all we have to say on Mr. Chapek.
What I will say, I'll leave this topic with this, is that it's the thought escaped me as I was about to take the soapbox. It just flew out the window. No, I think it'll be clear if someone replaces Chapek, if Chapek goes out the door and someone comes in, it'll be clear who is really the one who's been doing making these horrible decisions. But also it also depends on, there's a lot of just very basic structural management issues that need to be fixed throughout the company that I think is also a major not talked about enough contributor to all of the problems that have been happening.
Yeah, I agree. And then that probably won't happen until Iger leaves and his person replaces him, changes everything up.
I don't know. He certainly has the power to look at the situation and go, no, this isn't working.
So. That's true. I guess he is. I think I can't remember when Michael Eisner is supposed, or I keep saying Michael Eisner, when Bob Iger is supposed to leave. I think he said he extended to 2021, something like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
I know that he originally said back in 2020, either 2015 or 2016, he first announced that he was going to step down, and then Tom Staggs was going to take over. And then Tom Staggs left, and then Bob Iger had to extend himself. That sounds wrong. Had to extend his tenure. So yeah, and I think he's done that maybe like 2 or 3 times now. So I think he probably is staying until 2020 or 2021.
Well, that just makes me hopeful that he's being very careful about who's next in line below him. And it makes it a little bit clear, not very clear, but makes me think maybe he doesn't think Chapek's cut out for the job. So
I don't think anyone thinks Chapek's cut out for the job.
Tom Staggs certainly was, and I think we would have had, the Parks would have specifically would have seen a really nice period. But we'll
see.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Moving on from Mr. Chapek, I don't know. Last one. This one is just odds and ends, is the title. Alright, so let's just get right into this one. Mickey and Minnie, Mickey's Runaway Railways, still slated to take over the northern flanks of Toontown and pushing the park boundary further north, forcing the existing rehearsing halls and entertainment department offices off property. The Toontown expansion is called Project Marceline. Bob Iger has visited Disneyland several times this past summer, but few people recognized him, and it never really got out that he was there. So it sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Disneyland continues to rake in huge profits at a chip higher than Walt Disney World currently is. The pop culture in SoCal is at a frenzy for all things Disneyland, and Burbank execs love that Disneyland has been able to thread this fine line between all-American nostalgia and social media hipsters. Walt Disney World, we'll get into that. Walt Disney World is far less successful at that, and the New York hipster crowd doesn't care about Walt Disney World like the Los Angeles hipster crowd adores Disneyland. And Burbank can't understand why Walt Disney World leadership is so frumpy and clueless on that. Okay, that's it for that. Now, let's just get into this. I didn't realize that there were rumors previously of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway coming to Toontown. I guess I just always...
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I didn't know that either, but I guess it is. And you know what? That's a good place for the attraction. That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
to taking over the thematic statement of a whole park
Yeah.
is not exciting. So they really need to be more careful about like if they had originally announced that attraction to be in Toontown, I'd be like, whoa, finally a really kind of cool and new attraction that works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they initially announced it and everyone was kind of like, so a downgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear this because, actually that would give me a reason to go to. I mean, I don't really go to Toontown for anything. Like, I don't ride Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. I don't go on Gadget's Go Coaster, and I can see Mickey on Main Street, so I have to go wait 45 minutes for him at his house. So I don't go to Toontown other than for Goofy Water, and frankly, like, this new ride sounds really exciting. But the funny thing is, it's probably going to take over the space that there's a huge warehouse just north of Toontown that actually holds a lot of old Disneyland ride memory. It holds a lot of ride vehicles that used to belong to Disneyland. It holds a lot of what do you call it? It holds a lot of props and things from old rides at Disneyland, and you see that huge warehouse just north of the main area of Toontown, that really long, that is it. And they hold a whole bunch of stuff, and they're probably going to have, if they do take over that space, they're probably going to have to move all that stuff to their warehouse in Ontario. So, which they could, but I mean, it's going to take a long time because that's a lot of old Disney they got to move through. But what's really cool is if you zoom in on that. Left.
I'll go back.
If you zoom in on that, there's this wall of hills that was built along the edge of that building. And that way it hides the building. That's the Toontown hillside. That is called the $1 Million Wall because it took $1 million to build it.
Wow.
To build that wall?
Yep, that wall of hills. Yeah.
Why? Why was it so expensive?
Well, because it's made of really thick steel I-beams and lots of concrete, and they also launch fireworks from it, so it also acts as a firework launcher. But yeah, it's mainly because it's made of so much steel and it's really huge, really, like, I think it's around like 100, maybe 200 feet long. It's like big.
Huh. Well, I didn't know that. Thank you, Alex, for letting us know that wall cost $1 million. That's crazy. Okay, but anyways,
I wouldn't be a historian if I didn't know that.
That's true. That's true. I guess that's why they don't call me Matt the historian. Anyways.
Yes.
Okay, back to Mickey's Runaway Railway. I guess this sort of gives an idea. I guess Disney thinks that this is going to be like a really great ride, because they probably wouldn't be planning to duplicate this in Toontown if they didn't think it was going to be great. Which is still kind of weird because we have like almost no like details on the ride or anything. I believe it's set to open next year, but that's true. Yeah,
that's two things. One, that's another thing that Disney does that is just like what Walt didn't do, which was like have all of these new projects be very secretive and then have like a big reveal and then it opens in a week. Whereas, I loved how open, having like the Wonderful World of Color show was, which is like, come on in, let's like see what we're working on, and it might be something that changes and shifts, like when they're going through and he's showing them the early stuff for Haunted Mansion. It's before it's even morphed into the Haunted Mansion that we know. It's, he even goes up to, I think Rolly Crump and is like, so this is for, what are we calling it?
Yeah.
And he goes, Haunted Mansion. There's just something so like I think that actually would attract people more, but of course you need a Walt Disney. That's a whole other story. But one thing that one really positive takeaway, and this is maybe speculative on my part, but please entertain this hypothetical. I picture this idea of putting the runaway railway in Toontown as a result of Iger's low-key visits to the park. He probably walked around, went into Toontown. It probably came I'd like to think that it just hit him spontaneously. Oh, maybe we can open up the back there into the north and we can put the new Mickey Railway attraction. That's thinking like Walt. And I don't know. After this podcast, I'm starting to think there's a little something in Iger that's just wanting to get out, but the company's so corrupt that it can't get out.
Or maybe, like me, he walked into Toontown and walked back out and said, "Wow, that sucks."
Well, I think it probably came from that. No, there's something not working in this land. What is it? And I think it came from creatively kind of processing the land. Or that.
But I guess just adding this ride won't necessarily fix Toontown. I mean, sure, it'll draw more people, but there's still like other big problems that Toontown has.
That's the other thing. Realistically, it was probably why isn't, we need to fix Toontown. Oh, let's just put that railway attraction in. I hope that's not why. But I'd like to think it was since we know that he was visiting the park, I'd like to think that it came from him spontaneously, creatively. We gotta have a little bit of hope.
That's another thing that is mentioned here about how Bob Iger has visited Disneyland several times and hardly anybody recognized him. We were sort of talking about that earlier when we were talking about Bob Chapek.
Well, that's the difference, because with Chapek, it's abundantly clear that he was just going to kind of pay his dues and go to the meeting and say, "Well, I visited the park. I didn't want to, but I did." The way it's being framed with Iger is that it really does feel like he's going to take it in, to figure, there's something different about it, I think.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, because sort of like someone mentioned like an undercover boss of having Iger go into the parks, and he's already done that apparently. But Alex, what do you think about Bob Iger visiting the parks without really attracting too much attention to himself?
I think it's really cool. I actually got to see Bob Iger in person one time. I was where was I? I was at what do you call it? I was working at Blue Bayou, and I was on my lunch break, and I was walking from the back of Pirates of the Caribbean to the cast member restaurant back there. And what's funny was there were a bunch of luxury cars parked alongside the backside of Pirates of the Caribbean. And those cars if there are cars parked along Pirates of the Caribbean, that's usually because there are company executives visiting the Disneyland branch of Walt Disney Imagineering, which is right there behind Pirates of the Caribbean. That's where their office is. And so I knew there were some executives there, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. Maybe I'll see one, and maybe I might recognize them. Next thing I know, I see Michael Cogliazzier walk out of Walt Disney Imagineering with Tom Staggs and Bob Iger.
Oh.
And so they were all just like talking, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. But I don't know how that pertains to this story. But I guess what I'm saying is I think Bob Iger is really cool. I think that he visits Disneyland actually quite often to see. I like to think that he is looking to see if he's doing things all right. That he's running the place correctly. I think that he wants to do right by the Disney company, you know?
Yeah. Hopefully he is.
Do you think he listens to people like us if there are criticisms of the park's nature, or do you think he values more the shareholders breathing down his neck?
I
Genuine question out of curiosity. That was not a loaded question.
I don't know. I think that I don't really know if he gets criticisms, like if he reads them from a third party place, or if he just reads the criticisms that his assistant puts on his table in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like we don't know if he's just a very stale corporate man, or if he is if he's different. I don't know.
I think he's different in certain ways, but I do think that it's possible that he's also one of those people where he may not be on Mice Chat, reading stuff for himself.
Well, I should hope not, because a lot of those forums they're very jaded, and sometimes rightfully so, but they're very, very rough, very a little too nasty. And I can understand why that would be a turnoff for the corporate or anyone at the company.
Mice Chat heard you say that.
I hope they did too. I really do.
No, I agree. They're pretty bad. Mateo said I have to agree with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel he looks like the kind of guy that would, like, occasionally, I don't know, maybe, like, hop on, like, YouTube or, like, just these other forums.
Check out Matterhorn Matt.
No, I mean, I feel like he does seem like the kind of guy that would, like, willingly try and see, like, what is, like, wrong with something, like, from the consumer's point of view, not just from, like, the shareholders, like you guys are saying. That's just, like, the kind of guy he seems to me. But of course there's really not much he can do, like, even if he agrees with some of the criticism, there's of course not much he can do to, like, try and fix them, unless it's, like, something minor. But yeah, to me he does feel like it.
There's so many other layers that you have to work through, and a lot of those other layers are very corrupt right now, from what my understanding of the company is. And so even if he is someone who wants to do, yes, of course, right by the shareholders, Disney's going to turn a profit regardless, because it's Disney and people are excited to see whatever Disney's going to produce, which is of course my reason for which is my reason that they should always be doing original stuff, because people are going to eat it up anyway. But there's so many other layers. It's painful to hear what's happening at Imagineering, because it's funny. I went into this, podcast thinking, Imagineering I used to think Imagineering is the last hope and corporate is the evil one. And I'm somehow walking out of this podcast going, but what if Iger is the solution? And, really interesting, because it was very disappointing to hear that Imagineering is one of those kind of almost corrupt layers. Maybe Iger wants to fix it, but he can't, because it's an empire. At a certain point, the emperor goes, "Oh my God, I can't fix this mess."
Well, what do you mean by corrupt? Just so everybody knows.
I don't mean that there's corruption going on, but there seems to be, like anything illegal, nothing illegal going on or anything like that. I think,
as far as we know, wink. Just kidding.
That's true. I think they seem to not be being run well. That's what I mean.
Okay.
I think what Jeremy means to say is, when it comes to Imagineering, their goals and their way of thinking is all out of whack.
And I do blame Chapek for this partly because of him lumping in the theme parks with consumer products. Because now the theme parks are a consumer product, and that would explain why everything feels like it's all for the purposes of promotion. It also explains why every new attraction has to be related to a newly purchased franchise, not even something that comes from Disney itself, something that was just purchased for the right price. So I kind of blame that, and, in the weeding out of the second generation almost completely.
Yeah.
It would certainly explain why Baxter retired when he did.
I think that Bob Iger is the good guy here. I think he wants the company to do good, to produce great things, and and to be the company that everybody wants it to be. But I think that there's just so many years of previous executive changes, and I'm not just talking about Michael Eisner. I mean, Michael Eisner was great at first, and then he turned into somebody else. But I do think that the company has been allowed to be corrupt and do corrupt things and have corrupt thinking for so long that when Bob Iger stepped in, it was kind of like now he was trying to bring the company back to its morals, back to what they should be trying to produce, and I think that Bob Iger sees Imagineering as the way to produce the things that make Disney Disney. Although he knows the politics of Imagineering and he hasn't been able to change it so far.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, and I hope it can be changed, because people are catching on. People are seeing that there's people are seeing just through the content that's being put out. There's a lot of hype and not a lot of follow through.
Yeah.
And people are really, really, really catching on to it. So it's not sustainable. I mean, we've said this before. It's not sustainable, and it is going to blow up in their face. Whether that's with Galaxy's Edge, or with the Marvel stuff, or with something else that they have up their sleeve. But I don't see how the way the company is it today that it's sustainable for tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on to, I guess, the final bit in this part.
2.5 hours later.
This is like the world record for Matterhorn Mondays, you guys. 2.5 hours. But
I hope people sit down, and you should actually. Well, we'll talk about that later. Never mind.
But the fact that the Burbank executives love how much Disney is like appealing to the quote hipsters. That's like the last thing that I want to hear us talk about. Because I'm sure you guys have like seen like the uprising with like not just like the walls, like the purple wall, the Tomorrowland wall, all that stuff. But I think for me, the way I see it is more like towards the merchandise side, like how you see like the shirts that say like gosh, you guys, I've talked about these before, but like the shirts, like those cheesy shirts.
Etsy shirts.
Yeah, the Etsy shirts is what I call them. Yeah, the Etsy shirts. Yeah, that I can never remember like a quote from one of them right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Like the shirts that say like I can't think of any examples, but I feel like for me, that's more of the way I see this kind of thing. Because people really do. It's the people who love those kinds of like shirts and like merchandise, they buy like a lot of that stuff. Like you see people waiting in lines for like not even just those, but for like the pop figures. I remember a couple weeks ago, just the Splash Mountain little pop figure things. People were buying those up and reselling them as well on like on eBay for like twice the how much they paid for them. Bryce said, "I'm so fly, I never land." That's one of them. That's one of the shirts.
One of them.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. It just makes me so... It's just those shirts are so bad. I don't understand. I'm so fly. I never land. But yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What I have to say about this is rather simple, and I think it's common sense. This should be no like. Is it surprising that Disney brings together the generations? It shouldn't be surprising. I think they need to stop trying to do that in those particular ways. Disneyland, by its very nature, is designed to do that. And if you want the proof, I'm going to read you a little tiny quote of very famous little brief opening day speech of Disneyland in 1955, and this simply put in one sentence. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. You don't need to do that with stupid shirts. That is the very nature of the park. They need to stop trying. They need to walk around the park and go, oh.
But the thing is that those shirts make a lot of money for them, so they probably won't stop.
Well, no, they're not going to stop. But they need to...
Going nowhere fast, Autopia. That's another one. Aye.
All right.
But, yeah, Alex, any final thoughts on this last bit?
Well, you know what's funny is I always think that there's something special about Disneyland, or Disneyland Resort for that matter. There's this whole, like they were saying, was that, Disneyland Resort is the place for hipsters now. It's like it's got this popularity that Southern California, mostly LA and Orange County, sees it as like this popular thing. And you know what it is that someone said it to me, I think the other day. They said Disneyland is in your backyard. And it totally makes sense, because when you live in LA or Orange County, you feel like Disneyland is literally your yard. Like it's just one of those places you go after school or after work. It's one of those places you go on your day off, whatever.
It's a park.
It's like
a park.
It's a park, And Walt Disney World is not like that. Walt Disney World is like this faraway place. Even if you live in Orlando, it's still a drive just to get to Magic Kingdom, and it's just it doesn't. Walt Disney World doesn't feel like it's part of your city, it doesn't feel like a park. It feels like a whole different place. Like
I think that's what Disney World was designed to do. So it all depends on what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Disneyland, that's why Disneyland is so eternally special and lasting, is because it is just as you described it, which I think is really beautifully put.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let's see. I feel like we've gone on this long enough. I did say I was going to bring in someone from the waiting room, so I'm just going to message them.
Oh my god.
You should just put that to bed, because it's not going to happen.
Well, you know what? This is. I thought this was a really great. As long as it is, and I hope the length doesn't scare people away from listening to this conversation, because I think this has been one of the best conversations that we've all had.
Oh yeah.
I hope it would be interesting to hear, to hear what the callers have to say. Have to say.
I was going to initially do this. I was going to do two, one after the Tomorrowland and then one after this, but I always forget. That's the thing. It's not even
been a great idea.
But let's see. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Mr. Disney Doof. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so nice to hear the microphone that is clear and that is working.
It works.
Thank you so much. Let's see. So, what do we want to hear his thoughts on, you guys? We've talked about so much
everything.
so far. everything.
Whatever he wants to share, whatever he feels, he wants to comment on.
Ooh, I can say a lot of stuff.
Let's see.
I
Well,
mean-
why? Yeah, you can just go ahead and say what's on your mind about everything we've talked about, or just pick one thing. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah.
How about Galaxy's Edge?
Okay.
So capacities, like
I mean, you don't have to.
I think the problem is like the demand for the rides, not
Wait,
necessarily.
is he
like,
saying something?
Mm-hmm. Can you not hear him?
No, it's completely silent.
Wait,
you can hear me, Matt, right?
I can hear him. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Like, how's
Wait
that
a minute.
happening?
Wait a minute.
Jeremy, can you hear him?
No, I can't.
I think
heard
they're
him
just
say
messing.
hello.
I think they're just messing with you guys, with him.
Oh,
What?
You can
I
just
can't.
continue.
I,
Are you?
No, I can't hear him.
I'm being serious. I would never want to sabotage this segment. I actually can't hear him, but I will just let him talk, and I'll listen back to this, and it'll be wonderful.
why, Matt? Why didn't you kick me and then like just add me back?
Okay, yeah.
So
Let's see. I want to make this work. I want to make this work. Okay, so he's back. Disney Doof.
can you guys hear me now?
I guess that's a no. Okay, keep talking and I'll play your audio through my microphone so they can hear it.
All right. Oh, now I can hear myself.
Yeah. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, now I can.
I can.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear him now.
Okay.
Okay, this will be hard to talk to, but capacities in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That's what I was gonna talk about.
By all means, you have the floor, Mr. Doof.
Yeah, sorry if I keep pausing because I'm hearing myself talk. So
yeah, did you want to say something about the capacity of Galaxy's Edge?
I was gonna say that I think the problem is the demand. It's not necessarily the capacity of the rides.
Okay.
Because Falcon is gonna have at least 2,500 an hour, and that's pretty good. And then the other one, the trackless ride, is gonna have at least 2,000 an hour also.
Okay.
I mean, those are both pretty good.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the thing really quick. Okay, so you guys could hear that, right? Just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's so strange. Okay, but anyways, Mr. Doof does bring up some valid points about Galaxy's Edge. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I saw he was talking. They were talking about that earlier in the chat, and I thought that was a really good point then, and I still do. I think that's true. But the thing with the trackless one, I think, is more of the issue of what Alex was talking about with the multiple different systems trying to work at once. I think that's going to be the issue for that one. But yeah, I know, but it's a good point to bring up because a lot of people are bringing up the that capacity is the main thing, and I agree that it might not be the main issue.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Disney Doof.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I forgot to bring you in earlier, but yeah. Thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and move you back.
Thanks.
Okay, that worked out slightly better than I thought it was gonna work out. Even though you guys
wonder why
couldn't
we
hear
couldn't
him.
hear him.
I mean, yeah, that's a really strange. Anyways, I think it's time. We don't have a Words with Walt this week, just because I knew this was going to take up so much time. But people did send in some spooky stories for us, so we can get into those, and then you all can go to sleep. Or if you're staying for the game night, which is happening right after the stream.
Oh my god.
If you guys want to stay for that, you guys are more than welcome. But yeah, let's get right into these spooky stories. We have one from Andrew, we have one from Bryce, and I have another one from someone that sent on Discord. They're all short, so don't worry. They're not too long. But, okay, let me find them. Okay, let's start with the one from Bryce. This one is called The Spookening 5, the long-awaited sequel. Let's just get right into it. So, okay, this is the start of the story. So, I work at a toy store in an old mall, but before you get all worked up and think this is one of those doll stories, it's not. Even though we do have Ouija boards with plastic movers so they don't work / get haunted. No, this mall is built upon an old graveyard. So during the evening to night hours, a chill will come in and stand beside us. All it will do is play with our hair. I've sent the playful spirit away by simply saying, "Please not now, I'm at work." And so it listens and leaves. This has already happened 7 times now. I think that's it. There isn't anything else. It just ends there. So I don't see any more to it. But thank you, Bryce, for sending in that spooky. Okay, in chat, I guess that's it. In chat, it says it literally just plays with our hair. That's kind of weird. I mean, I guess you could have it like braid your hair if you wanted, or like comb it. If you forget to comb your hair at home, you can just have the ghost brush your hair. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. Anyways. This next one is from Andrew. He's the one who sent in the 3-parter that we did a couple weeks ago. Okay. He says this one is based off the Office TV show. It's not really much of a scary story. It's more sad, he says. So, man, why are so many ghosts sex offenders? Says Mateo. Yeah, we got LMGs. We got his butt ghost. We got it's crazy.
His butt ghost.
Let's get right into this. This one is called Dwight's Plight by Andrew, who is here in chat. Okay. I woke up that morning and looked outside with a saddened grin. I didn't feel warm today. The sun decided not to come in. As I scan up and down the city streets, I spot 2 homeless men appearing to meet. They don't fight, they only talk. Then a smile, and they start to walk. It's a simple interaction, but most don't care. We don't see because of the misery we all share. I eat my food and close my door. The people in the elevator always grow more. I step outside, I don't ever talk. All I need to do is walk, walk, walk. I'm greeted by an elaborate graffitied stained wall. Then I trip. I begin to fall. It's because my streets are cracked, old, and dirty. The sidewalk doesn't know I start at 9:30. The skyscraper's faces laugh at my pain. I duck out of sight, feeling more shame. I'm late 5 minutes or so. Once I arrive, I just want to go. Back home to where I know my monotonous work won't be so slow. I sit down in my gray square of nothing, hoping joy will come from something. I drink from the coffee, it's tasteless and old, as another ream of paper becomes sold. Dunder Mifflin has been alright, but sadness was always hidden in sight. You see, my old boss Michael Scott had left long ago. He had gone to be in some acting show. My girlfriend has left, her cat has died. I was heartbroken, so I put my beat work aside. I ran a farm some years long since forgotten. Now my days have become rotten. Robert California is my new boss, but he acts like someday old moss. He doesn't come to meet me when I need help. Coldness is all he's ever felt. Jim sits just to my right, and Andy yells, "Big Tuna! It's an upsetting plight. It's in an upsetting plight." Then Phyllis asks me to stop eating my beets. She says, "Dwight, you need to eat more neat." That might be meant to say meat. I stare around and begin to moan, and everyone stops to let out a big groan. An uphill battle is what I struggle with every day. When will my sadness ever wash away? Okay. Thank you, Andrew, for a not spooky story, but a sad story. Now we have one more. This one's not too long either. One more from... I can't pronounce this username. I'm so sorry. He sent it to me on Discord, but it's a not so spooky story / midnight tinkle / strange happening / strange coinkydink. Yeah, Andrew, that was great. Thank you. Please keep sending those in. You really do write some great stuff. Okay. Let's get into this last one. The year was 2009. My mom and I took a trip to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Is it just an office theme today? Okay. I took a trip to Scranton, Pennsylvania because we are avid fans of The Office and wanted to visit some of the locations referenced throughout the series. Some of the places we visited were Alfredo's Pizza Cafe, the Mall at Steamtown, and Poor Richard's Pub. On the day we flew back home, I overheard a song playing at Scranton International Airport. After shazamming the song, I discovered that it to be Lady by Little River Band. Weeks later, the Office episode Stress Relieved aired directly after Super Bowl 43. In the episode, Andy shows Jim and Pam a pirated movie starring Jack Black and Jessica Alba. At the end of the episode, Jack's character in the film approaches the front door and looks through the window, and the song playing during the scene was Lady. Ooh. Not so spooky, but kind of spooky, you guys. The same song played at the airport than from the episode. Okay. Thank you to everybody who sent in all of your spooky stories. If you would like to send in your own personal spooky story, you can email them to me, ytmatterhornmatt@gmail.com, or you can send them on the Discord. Discord link is in the description, as always, you guys, along with my Patreon, as well as Alex's channel, Jeremy's Twitter, all that stuff. Also the merch I have, my pins. I think I'm gonna be doing a sale on the pins. I still have a few pins left over. So yeah, I might be doing a sale on those when I hit 10,000 subscribers. But I forgot to say this at the beginning. I wanted to thank all of you for watching the Splash Mountain episode and for subscribing. To all you new people who just happened to be listening. We recently passed 9,000 subscribers. My nose is like really tickling right now. Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, my nose is, or not my nose, but yeah, big thank you to everybody who's been watching and subscribing. It really means a lot to all of us. Jeremy, me, Alex, it means the world to us. And if we do hit 10,000 subscribers, I will be, like I said, I will be releasing the Pirates of the Caribbean ride-through with all of the... God, my nose is like... I will be releasing the Pirates of the Caribbean ride-through with my voice replacing all the other voices on the ride. I don't know how long it'll take. It might take a while for me to get it together, but I should probably start working on it now. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure you guys are too. It'll be pretty funny. Hopefully, we'll see. But my nose, I'm not picking my nose. There's like a hair that's like tickling me. But anyways, let's see. I think that's just about ready to wrap up this episode. Almost 3 hours. So far, it's at 2 hours and 49 minutes so far. But yeah. So Mateo asked, but Jeremy said he'll be right back. I don't think he'll make it back in time for the outro, so he will be with us here in spirit. But yeah, big thanks to everybody who's stayed tuned, stuck with us for this long journey of an episode. We hope you all enjoyed. I'm sure you guys will have to like listen to this in a few parts, just because we talked about so much. But yeah, big thanks to everyone who showed up, and we want to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about. All of the bullet points that we talked about, I can't even remember. Links to everything are in the description, as always. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you all for watching. Alex, do you have anything you'd like to say as we close off the episode?
What? What? Oh.
Mm.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Mateo says this episode was like the Lord of the Rings of Matterhorn Mondays. Very good. Thank you, Mateo. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.